Warren Pohl, one of the co-founders at 33 Shake, and welcome to the 33 Shake vlog. In this episode, we're going to be taking inspiration from a great piece that sports journalist and endurance athlete Tim Heming wrote for our blog recently about smiling and how, quite seriously, it could help your endurance performance. Now, don't worry, this isn't the woo-woo nonsense it sounds like. If you bear with us, you'll find out that behind all this, there's a great and very simple little mental trick that all endurance athletes should keep in their toolkit. You never know when you're going to need it. And it turns out that smiling could quite literally be the difference between PB and peed off. Now at 33 Shake, our mission is to bring the greatest value to endurance athletes. And we do that in this vlog by sharing the very best in training, nutrition and mindset tips and tricks for performance in endurance sport. And we also do it in store at 33shake.com with our awesome natural sports performance products. And with that said, let's get on with the show. Now, if we're smiling while we're exercising, while we're racing, it doesn't just tell everyone else that we're enjoying it, it tells us that we're enjoying it. And that could be the key to making us go faster. In a recent vlog on training motivation, I drew upon a quote from the Irish endurance legend Jerry Duffy, which was, "You don't have to train, you get to train." And then I also added to that the Latin phrase memento mori, which means remember you're going to die. And the point of bringing these two things together was to really emphasize that we don't have to do any of this. We get to do it. We really should enjoy our sport because life is short and one day we're not going to be able to do it at all. Let's make the most of these golden times while we have them. And this whole idea about smiling takes that concept and raises it another notch. Now, if you want to go back to that show, the links to that are in the show notes for this one, so you'd be free to check that out later. But moving it on with this idea of smiling, there is evidence behind this. Like I said, this isn't just woo-woo nonsense. Journalist and no mean runner himself, Alex Hutchinson, he wrote a book recently. It's called Endure, Mind, Body and the Curiously Elastic Limits of Human Performance. Again, link to that in the show notes if you want to check it out. It's a fascinating book. Anyway, he's been exploring what determines our endurance potential. And as you can guess from that title, he's found out the limits are nowhere near as clear-cut as you might imagine. As well as examining some of the superhuman feats surrounding endurance, whether it's oxygen deprivation, whether it's dehydration, whether it's altitude, whether it's extreme temperature, one of the things he also looked at the scientific research around positive self-talk and inward motivation. So one study that he looked at took 18 trained cyclists and they were tested by a guy called Stephen Chung. He's a physiologist at Brock University in Canada. And what they had to do, they were given a fortnight of self-talk motivation, stuff that they could work through in their own heads to see if that would raise their game. And when they were then put out to go training against a control group who had not been doing the self-talk, what did you know? You find out that the guys who'd been using the self-talk were able to tolerate a higher core body temperature than the ones who hadn't. And that right there is an inkling that a positive mindset can really go a long way. But this is just one test, so let's go to another experiment. Samuele Marcora, he's a research professor at the University of Kent. He took 13 trained cyclists and he got them to pedal to exhaustion on static bikes. While they were doing this, images were flashed on a screen in front of them, imperceptibly. You wouldn't have been able to actually see them at the time. I think 16 millisecond bursts, these images would flash up. If anyone's ever seen Fight Club and the scene with Brad Pitt splicing bits of film, you'll know exactly what we're talking about here. That one wasn't necessarily about sports performance, however. But back to this. The cyclists, these people, they were shown these imperceptible bursts. Now, one group was shown happy faces in these tiny 16 millisecond bursts. One group was shown sad faces, and guess what? The guys and girls who were shown the happy faces were able to cycle on average 3 minutes longer. So great, there we have it. There is some science behind this in the lab. Positive talk or positive imagery helps people perform further. But clearly the lab is a very different place to the real world. As we know, for example, there is a ton of science supporting a lot of very ordinary sports nutrition out there, yet the results most athletes experience in the real world with those products is stomach trouble, vomiting, bad taste, yo-yo energy levels, the whole lot. So there's clearly a divide between theory and practice. Does that divide apply the same way when we go and look at this idea of positivity and smiling? Let's get into the real world. So who better to take as an example of this than 4-time World Ironman champion and 33 Shake team member, Chrissie Wellington. She was well known for smiling throughout her career, but if you needed any further demonstration of exactly how closely Chrissie is related to smiling, you only need to check out her Twitter profile. The link is in the show notes, but you won't forget it. It's at Chrissie Smiles, one word. Smiling, she was known as Smiler by some people. It's a key part of her persona. Now, her record in Ironman was standout. She competed in 13 races, 13 Ironman distance triathlons. She won 13 Ironman distance triathlons. So let's face it, she might have been smiling on the outside. She was also taking this deeply serious. She cannot perform like that by accident and without being seriously gritty. So she said it does actually give me a boost to smile. And she's also said that although there was a definite case of faking it a bit that day in Kona. Now, when she's talking about that, she's talking about one of her Kona World Ironman Championship wins, where a few days before she'd actually come off her bike and she had road rash and injuries and all sorts when she came into that race. So as she said, on that day, there was a definite case of faking it a bit. She goes on to say, I was worried, I was in pain, I was scared I wasn't going to win, but I needed to mask it. And this is a really important bit. I needed to mask it both for myself. So that smile on her face is telling her that she's okay. But also, she says, I need to do it for myself and also to try to convey the impression of not hurting to my competitors. Let's face it, how much of a bigger morale sap can any competitor get than having your toughest opponent, who looks like she's beat to hell, not only breezing past you, but smiling, looking like she's having a great day out while she's doing it. So that was masking the pain for Chrissie. It's also masking the pain to her competitors, giving her an edge. She says, I don't want it to seem, and she's talking again about that Kona incident where she was beaten up. I don't want it to seem that my smile was disingenuous though. I think it was a powerful weapon in my armory, and that's exactly what this should be. It's a tool that you put in your endurance performance toolkit, and you pull it out when you need it. Now you might be thinking, of course Chrissie was smiling, she was always winning. And let's face it, most of us are probably not taking multiple Ironman World Championships. But it wouldn't be oversimplifying it to think that's the only reason that she was smiling. Because if we look, don't even have to look any further than some of her main competitors. The ones with the biggest smiles also, quite conveniently, seem to be the ones with the biggest results. So this is fellow female Ironman athletes. Let's have a look. Lucy Gossage, multiple English triathlon winner, even English Ironman winner. She combines her racing with a career as a cancer doctor, well known for smiling, very high performance. Or what about from Denmark, Michelle Vesterby? Now she's always grinning, she's always bubbling with positive vibes, and she is always going seriously quickly. So if we take this smiling and exercise performance, how can you make it work for you? I mean, in the most simple terms, when you're deep in a world of hurt, in the middle of an endurance event, remember it. Force that grin onto your face. And if you have to think of anything at this moment, because let's face it, when you are in those dark moments, and we all know how hard they are to remember when you're not actually in the heart of competition, but you know those times are dark. And when you slap a silly grin on your face in the middle of that, you're going to feel like a moron, inwardly and outwardly. Just remember the phrase, fake it till you make it. It doesn't work everywhere in life, but here, you're going to put that grin on in that time that you're feeling low. It's going to feel stupid, but that's a good thing. You're changing your state. You're starting to dig yourself out of the hole. It may help you go quicker. So remember that, fake it till you make it. Just try and literally slap the thing on like it's a piece of, I don't know, fancy dress. But if you also look at your training partners, other people you know who you race with, just see, is there a correlation between the ones who go quicker and the ones who are outwardly happier, bubblier, more outwardly and obviously smiley. But also look back at your best performances. How did you feel that day? Because one of the ways to succeed in anything is to model people who have achieved what you want to achieve. So look back at your best race. That was you achieving your best performance. How did you feel that day? How was your mental talk? How was your facial expression? How did you carry yourself, hold yourself? How were you breathing? All of those things, those are cues that you can use to put yourself back in that same mental state again. So you think, well, how did I feel physically? How was I smiling? How was I thinking? All those things. How was I when I've been my most successful in the past? Right, now let's do that again. If it feels stupid or if it doesn't feel right because you're in a foul mood because you're deep in the pain cave, again, fake it till you make it. It's just a tool. May not always work. These things, you've got to try them, see if it's working, discard what isn't, carry on with what is. Every race is different, every performance is different. So there you go. Try out smiling next time you're going through some seriously hard stuff in training or racing, and let us know how you get on. And until the next time, thanks very much for tuning in.